hello, and welcome, fellow listeners, faithful listeners. Welcome to Brew and Ink Podcast, Episode 1. I'm Steven. I'm going to be your host for tonight. I'm here with Britt, Evie, and Bill. You guys want to say hi?
Hey, this is Britt.
Hey, this is Evie.
Hey, it's Bill. And again, I'm Steven. And we're going to share some stories, talk about ourselves, and give you guys some information on what our group is and what we're doing. What is Brew and Ink? We are a writers group that meets every other week. We get together and we just brainstorm ideas, throw ideas off of one another, and we share our writing. The history of it is really, it started as a small group with a couple friends of mine. We got together and we did some writing, and as it happens, time goes by and people disband, have a new group, bring more people on, people disband, and then eventually I was introduced to my friend Britt here, and we were talking about, hey, let's do a writers group again. And I was like, I've done that before, and I really liked it. Got a lot of short stories out of it, got a lot of great ideas out of the past group, but this time, let's focus on really honing in on a single project, and we just encourage each other to really see it through each step of the way until we see it through to completion, to publication. So that's where we are in this journey. We're all at different places. Some of us have books that we've self-published. Others of us are starting off brand new, and, we love it. We're here for the ride. We're here for the camaraderie, and it's been really good. Now, you may ask, what's the brew part of the ink? The ink is obviously the writing, the printing, whatever medium you're using nowadays. The brew part happens to come from, we all enjoy a good brew here and there, but, a couple of us, me and Bill, are also home brewers. So we would very often bring in our own brews, and you'll probably hear us talking about those from time to time. And tonight we've got a nice little Rebel IPA. It's boldly hopped and balanced. And
that on the boldly hopped, definitely.
I mean, we're unbalanced, but the beer is.
The beer is very balanced. Yes. My brewery name when I homebrew was called Off Kilter Brewery. Yeah.
Nice.
A little snippet there.
Did you wear kilts while you were?
It's a good idea.
Well, I'm thinking maybe he didn't.
But anyways, I'm gonna pass it over to you, Britt, and kind of tell us what we're doing here. What's going on? What's our purpose?
Yeah, so I was at a writers conference 6 months ago or so, and I was just really kind of thinking of some things to do with our writers group and some ideas of doing something a little different. And for those of you who don't know, for writers, sometimes we do like writing prompts, or you do like writing exercises. And one of the things that is good for writers to do is to be kind of given a subject, a topic, and just say, well, write about it this week. And even if it's just short, it can really help you practice some really good aspects of writing. And so I was trying to think of a good way to do that, and maybe a podcast and something that would be fun.
A way to share it.
And to share it, right? And just to have fun. And so I was thinking, well, what would be cool? When I was a kid, I really liked those choose your own adventures. Yeah. I really like those.
And I know you and I had conversations before about how it's like, I just want to do a group project where we're working together and we're trying to write the same thing. And you're like, yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I've got this idea.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, let's do a podcast, or I would like to do a podcast. And I brought it to the group and said, hey, this would be a good way for not only for us to exercise, but then to get people involved in relationship with us as writers, and to give feedback, and to have interaction with people, other writers, friends of mine who are writers, self-published and published, and beginners or whatever, but also just fans, people who just like good story.
Yeah.
And we all like a good story. Everybody loves a good story. And as we were talking about before we started here, like, part of my thought is we've all been to the movie, and at the end of it gone, man, I really wish they would have done this. Right. No spoiler alerts, but you go to The Last Jedi and you say, man, I really wish that, this would have happened. And we all love story. We all love to have input on those kind of things, even if you're not a quote unquote writer.
Yeah. So not everyone has an avenue to do it. So we thought, why not, give some of our friends and ourselves an avenue through which we can share our stories with one another.
Yeah. And so then for us, it would be the exercise of being told by the audience, this is what you're writing next. Yeah. Like, okay, here's the choice. We're going to take it up to a point. and there's going to be a choice in that at the end of that section, that episode, and then the audience is going to say, kill this guy, or don't kill this guy, or this guy becomes a villain, or whatever that next step's going to be. And then we just kind of let the audience guide us through
They're
part of the
always going to be a
process.
setup, but we don't know what the decision's going to be because it's going to be based up to you guys.
Yeah. And so then the next writer will be given that choice, so after a week of voting, and hopefully you guys all vote, everybody listening to this podcast, you'll get on the Facebook page and you'll vote, and then we'll announce what that decision was, and everybody will be able to see it. And then on the next episode, we'll sit here and we'll say, okay, what did you write, and we'll share that. Just get everybody involved with it that way. So that was my idea.
Yep. And you can find us on Facebook at Brew and Ink, Facebook/Brew and Ink. And we'll, like I said, we'll have a bunch of updates there. We'll have links to each of our different author pages. We'll have links to the podcasts themselves. So go and check that out.
Is the Brew and Ink Brew ampersand ink or Brew and ink?
If you're searching, you're going to search Brew, BREW, ampersand, Ink, INK.
Okay, just wanted to make that clear for the listeners.
Correct. All right, and with that, I guess we'll go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Steven. I've been writing stories since I could write. I've always worked on little short stories through elementary school, middle school, high school. I remember using time at lunchtime just to write, and then throughout college went for game design. But instead of really liking the artistic aspect of it, I really liked the story aspect of it. And it wasn't until going through a lot of these different writers groups that I really found what it was I had been honing all these years. And right now I've got a fantasy book that's in a first draft, but currently I'm working on a sci-fi thriller. Got a book 1 and book 2, and the first book I'm really trying to hash out the second draft of it and get it to do it publication. And next we got Britt.
Yeah, so Britt Mooney, and my author name is M.B. Mooney. So, and I've self-published a few novels. I started writing again in the second grade. My teacher was a genius, and she saw a very precocious child, and I was getting in trouble because I was bored a lot because I'd finish all my work early, and she said, write me a story. And I never did it for a grade. The whole rest of the year, I'd wait to get done with my work so I'd hurry, get done with my
Best suggestion ever.
It was the best ever. And that's a great story. I've actually reconnected with her recently, and that was really awesome. But she, so anyways, just since then, I've written stories, I've written books. I've always been writing and creating, and I got into songwriting a little bit. A lot over the years, but I've always written, whether articles or stories, I've always been writing. And so I really got more serious about doing the publication part, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I wrote The Living Stone, which was the first self-published book that I did. And so I've got a couple epic fantasy, and I've got a couple urban fantasy books that I'm doing. And so anyway, so I've got about 4 books on Amazon now, if you want to look them up, but that's kind of where I've got to. And I've been talking with a couple agents, and I'm getting more into the traditional publishing world as well.
That's MB Mooney. Look him up. Next we got Evie Porter.
Hey, I'm Evie Porter, and I am actually fairly new to writing. I got into it in my teens, and but I'm working on my first book right now. It's a fantasy book, and I'm definitely in my first draft, so I'm kind of the newbie around here.
We're making her slave away.
But we love her.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
And finally, we've got Bill.
All right, hey guys, my name is Bill Hawkins. I'm kind of the old dog here, but certainly not as prolific a writer. I took a couple of years off of writing between high school when I really got involved in it and really got excited about writing. And got back to it a couple of years ago. I really began my writing career writing magazine articles and screenplays, and never sold a screenplay, but I have a bunch of them if anybody's interested. But now I've written 2 novels. I'm working on my third. The first novel is, I think, really done with the final polish as a thriller. The second is more of a caper book, and I found that that's really my gift, is crime novels in that caper genre, where the criminal or the supposed criminal is your protagonist, and I really enjoy that perspective. I like that a lot. I'm working on a third draft of a third book, and I'm currently looking for an agent and shopping my material. I thought that since we have a group and we're on a podcast and you can't see us, that we ought to do a little bit of a physical description for each one of
I
us.
thought we liked that they couldn't see us.
Yeah, that's a good thing, but they need to know. They need to
Well,
know
wait,
who.
my mom said I have a face for podcasting.
Right,
So
your mom said that, but I'm just going to say that first of all, we've got Stephen here, who's our MC tonight and who's our leader tonight.
Yes, sir.
And Stephen is really best way I could describe him is really a Stallone kind of look.
Hey, Adrian.
Yeah, we got Stephen and we got Britt. Britt's a big guy, real solid. I'd sell him as Cary Grant.
oh my God.
We got Evie. Now Evie's Bavarian. I'd just go, with Marilyn Monroe with Evie. And just imagine me as a David Bowie type.
Right, we're really selling it here.
Wait, you're David Bowie?
Yeah.
That's nice.
No, realistically, guys, we've all got faces for podcasts except for Evie. I'm not going to say that she does.
No.
So
No, thanks.
I'm gonna hand it over to our MC.
Yeah, and so, with all of us at different intervals of the writing process, it's been really good for each of us to just build off of one another, lean on each other, come in with first drafts and say, how does this sound? And we go, this part's really good. This part, change it this way or that way. And that's really what this group is about. We want to be a group that encourages writers to see their craft come to fruition. And that's why for our group, we kind of try and give ourselves little goals, little 2,500 word goals per day, things like that, things that are going to make you step up your game. So you may hear us talk about those kind of things throughout our podcast. But right now, I think we should get into the story.
All right, so the working title that we have for the story, the book that we're going to be writing together, us as writers and you guys as the audience helping us out, is Boneyard. Now, we may at some point give you guys an option to maybe help us rename it or to give it a better title. But this is episode 1. We're going to try to keep each of these episodes to about 1,500 words or less. And so we can kind of read it in about 10 or 15 minutes and kind of do it that way. So I'm going to start. I'm going to try not to read too quickly. And then at the end there'll be a choice and we'll kind of get to that. All right? Boneyard, episode 1. But you have to let me come with you, I told my brother. Walking down to the starting line to his car, Troy glared down at me. Deb, I ain't got to do nothing. A group of 20 young people gathered around the 2 cars at the long stretch of highway. Most of the kids were boys in high school age. The couple other boys had been in jail and smelled of beer and cigarettes. The few girls hung on the arms of a boy and tried to look pretty. I was the only girl there because I wanted to drive. We got closer to Troy's car, a 1958 Impala that used to be gold color but now was more like piss yellow. All the hubcaps were gone. It looked ratty on the outside, but we knew it could move. Next to it sat a 60 Cutlass black, Bobby's car. Where Bobby got the money for that vehicle, I didn't know. Us black kids didn't come by cars like that easy, but it shone in the moonlight. Now within earshot of the other kids, I whispered through my teeth, "You'll just mess it up. You know I'm a better driver than you." Troy snorted. "Girl, you think I'm going to let you drive and embarrass me in front of everybody?" My fist clenched at my side. "It's my additive. If you don't work it right." He stopped a few yards short of the cars. He hated that I called it an additive. He called it the power juice. It's a dumb name. "I'll do it right. Just go with the others and watch." Driving is an art. Yeah, there's a skill you can learn, but really there's a feel to it, moments to wait and others to push. And with the additive I created, we needed the right moment to beat Bobby's Cutlass on the road. And then when we won, we'd own that beautiful beast. That car would be mine to drive, to work on. Troy promised. Troy adjusted the pack of smokes rolled up in the short sleeve of his white t-shirt and marched forward again. He greeted everyone. They laughed back at us, probably because of the cheap-looking Impala Troy brought. One of those kids waved at me from the side. He grinned. "Hey, Deb, Walt was the nerd of our school, sat alone at lunch. Why he came to the races was a mystery to me, but I didn't care enough to ask. I rolled my eyes and marched toward the race. Bobby sat on the hood of his Cutlass. A skinny kid, Bobby's teeth stuck out too far for his mouth to close all the way. He took a drag on a cigarette and it bobbed when he nodded at us. I took a deep breath and followed. You can't pull that lever too soon or too hard. You got to do it easy, and at the right time, you shut up. His snarl turned into a grin as he faced Bobby and the others. Y'all ready to race? The crowd hollered and raised their fists. Bobby took another long drag on the smoke and then flicked it off, the ashes making a long orange-red arc before it hit the asphalt. Bobby cocked his head at the Impala. Question is, Cat, you ready with that thing? I stood off to the side and bit my tongue. Troy's Impala looked natty, sure, but we could only afford a beat-up 8-year-old car. He swept the barber shop after school in town. With the odd jobs I did around town for church folks, it took us 2 years to save up for that car, and still our dad, a mechanic, had to help us find it and fix it from the boneyard on our side of town. The paint job may look like piss, but it's what's underneath that counts. Troy sniffed at Bobby in the chuckling crowd. Talk now, brother, we'll see. He moved to the driver's side of the Impala. Bobby hopped off the hood of the Cutlass and stretched before stepping over and opening the car door. Right on, we'll see. Troy got into the Impala and the crowd migrated with hops and skips to the right and up the hill. I hesitated a moment. Troy avoided my gaze. I huffed over with the others. Only Chartine stayed at the street. Her pants hugged her body so tight, she strode with straight legs and wobbled on high heels. She turned and stood 5 yards in front of the cars. The gray road with a yellow line down the middle went straight beyond her until the darkness swallowed it. Raising her scarf, she eyed Bobby and Troy. Both engines turned and roared to life. The sound echoed across the vast, flat ground. My skin tingled. I crossed my arms and rubbed them. The sense of oil, gas, and exhaust wafted over me. I shifted my weight from right to left. Chartine smiled, her eyes wild, and with a scream, she leapt and waved the scarf as she dropped. The two cars lurched forward as one. Chartine's hair blew in her eyes as the tires squealed and they drove past her. A soft voice came from behind me. I hope he beats Bobby. Glancing over my shoulder, Walter stood there with his round head and wide hips. He pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose and gave me another grin. Without answering, I took a step forward, separating from the group. Please, God, let me get that car so I can have one to race. Troy and Bobby drove neck and neck for 30 yards, but then Bobby started to pull away. The Impala sputtered, and Troy pulled ahead. They went back and forth for another 30 yards. My chest puffed out at the engine we built. The Cutlass finally got some separation, however, and Troy had to hang back as they came to the turn point so Bobby didn't run him off the road. People yelling behind me, calling for one or the other to win, although they all expected it to be Bobby. No one had beaten him before. Bobby hit the mark first, and smoke came from the tires as he slammed the brakes and swung the Cutlass around like they did in the movies. Troy hit the mark a split second later, but his turn went wider and took longer. I shook my head and hissed breath through my teeth. Both on the way back to the finish now, and Troy drove a half length behind. Bobby and the Cutlass extended the lead to a full length within another second. Do it now, but not too much at first. Ease into it. Plenty of time and road to make up the gap and win this race. The Impala engine whined, a high pitch that made everyone cringe. Don't get desperate, Troy. You've got it. Just take it slow. The Impala picked up speed. I held my breath as he gained on Bobby quick. A boom echoed and everyone recoiled, silent. First came smoke from the Impala's engine. My mouth went dry. No. Next, a spark of flame appeared from the side of the hood, leaking out into the night. He pulled the lever all the way. I told him the engine couldn't handle it all at once. I waved my arms and went closer to the road. No, Troy, stop, pull over. A hand at my elbow. I whirled on Walter. I was too close to the road. He tried to help as two large vehicles, one now on fire, barreled towards me. Now that the flames licked over the windshield, Troy started to swerve. Back and forth, taking in more of the road. The right front tire exploded from the heat and violence, and the Impala turned almost perpendicular to the road. At that speed, the left side of the Impala rose in the air. The car began to flip, end over end. The Cutlass blew by us, winning the race, but no one watched Bobby. It happened like slow motion. Metal crunched on the asphalt, the bumper and other pieces flying off. Rolled once, twice, 3 and 4 times. People screamed behind me. I froze, my mouth open. The car we worked so hard to build and get ready, the engine I fitted and fixed over the last 2 months, it landed with a sad creak. The flames from the engine died and then came to life again. Troy. Walter tried to stop me. I tore my arm from his fingers and sprinted toward the wreckage. And that's the end of episode 1.
All right, so that was the story, and we're leaving it off with kind of a cliffhanger, but we're giving out some options for the people to come and vote on, and we'll see where the story goes. I guess the question is, who's writing next, and what are the options?
Good.
So let's...
So let's hear the options.
Yeah.
The options are going to be choice 1. This is what you're going to vote on. Troy is dead. So she's rushing to the car. This car that they've worked on and dreamed about is toast, and her brother that she loves is in the car. So choice 1 is Troy is dead. So whoever writes from that point on will write that. And then choice number 2 is that Troy is simply badly injured and whatever has to happen at that point. So those are the 2 choices. We can come up with a third choice.
Do you guys want to come up with a third option after hearing the story? Anything that piqued your interest?
She kills Troy for wrecking her car.
That definitely changes. Yeah, she gets in there. He's still alive, and then she kills him.
She's the only girl here. I mean, oh my goodness, I'd be so mad.
I mean, she got her fingernails dirty day after day after day working on that car.
Right.
Yeah.
She's probably not very happy with him right now. So she's charging toward the car to finish him off, eh?
He could
She might be.
That's option number 3.
He could be fine, and she pulls him out and punches him and starts an argument.
Yeah.
So option number 3 is Troy is not terribly wounded, but could be.
By her.
Same.
Maybe Troy is somehow preserved through the wreckage, and now we got to figure out why is he okay, even though that was a really bad accident.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So those are the 3 choices. Either he's dead, he's either badly injured, or he's fine. Either way, that sets up conflict for the next writer. Either way, it sets up, right? She's pissed, right? That, or there's grief because he's dead and she feels guilty that she was pissed or whatever, or he's badly injured and she's still pissed at him, but now, how pissed can she be? Yeah. Whatever he's...
And for our British readers, our faithful listeners, pissed to Americans means very angry.
So where are they going to go to vote?
You're going to go to our Facebook page, and if you're searching, you're going to search Brew, BREW, ampersand, Inc., INK, and you'll see our page pop up there. It's got a little glass of beer and a little thing of ink, kind of cheersing each other. You'll see that logo right there, and you click on that, and you'll see a link for our podcast. You can listen to it, and then there'll be a poll on the Facebook page that you can vote on as well. And we're going to give you guys about 1 week to get those votes in. By the end of this week, around Saturday, I think the polls will be closed, and that's when the next writer, myself, will begin writing from wherever you guys have voted. So you've got a few days to listen to the podcast, listen to the story, go and vote, hit up that poll, click it as many times as you want, get your votes in, and we'll take it from there. And we will all be entertained because who knows where it's going to go.
Yeah. And just keep checking the Facebook page because we'll have reviews on there. We'll have other stuff because, we love to read. We love to watch movies. We love to consume stories like everybody else. So just keep your eyes on the Facebook page. It's going to be awesome.
And we're gonna try and put up different resources for writers to help you guys out to kind of see where you can take your stories. What can you do with your stories? If you're stuck somewhere, maybe you'll see a post that we put on there and it'll give you an idea and inspiration.
And on the podcast, you guys can leave comments on what you guys thought, and if you think that we need to improve on something.
Yeah.
Yes, there is great need for criticism if you're going to be an artist of any kind. But again, thank you guys so much.
And don't forget to go and like our Facebook page. We really appreciate it.
All
We're
right.
good. Cheers.
And as
Cheers.
always, raise your glass to inspiration.
We'll see you next time. Good night.